Hi everybody, this is Bonnie with Bonnie Bay Crochet, and today I want to show you how to make my Celtic Orchid shawl. This is a shawl made using a fingering weight yarn, and it features the Celtic Weave as well as the braided cable, and I'll put some additional photos so that you can see that here. I was inspired to create this simply by the color of the hand-dyed yarn that is made by the yarn smith, and I'll put the information where you can get this yarn in the video description below. But anyway, the color of the yarn immediately reminded me of my late father, who loved to grow orchids in the South Florida climate in which we were living. Anyway, I also wanted to show you another interpretation of the same pattern using a mohair silk lace weight yarn. Now this type of yarn is very common among many brands, so I'm not going to get brand specific here, but I just wanted to show you that if you wanted to try something a little different, it's definitely a possibility, and I just absolutely love this particular fiber as well. Now I will say one thing: if you do attempt to use the mohair version, is be sure that you are absolutely confident of your stitches going into this, because it's very, very difficult to pull them back out, as you can imagine. But in saying all of that, the final product is absolutely amazing, very ethereal. Also, one more thing before we get started: if you haven't already signed up for the Bonnie Bay Crochet newsletter, which is absolutely free, please do so. There will be a link in the video description below. And just to let you know, I never sell my contact list ever, period. I appreciate my privacy and I want to respect yours as well. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. For this project, I'm going to be using 3 skeins of this fingering weight or sock weight yarn by the yarn smith. And let me give you some stats on this. This is 75% merino and 25% nylon. This is a super wash wool, and again, and the fingering weight, and the color is crushed berries. I'm going to be using 3 hanks of this yarn for this particular project, and I'm also recommending that you have a crochet hook. I'm going to be using size G or 6, which is also the same as 4.00 millimeter. If you are watching this video from outside the US, please pay particular attention to the millimeter size rather than the letter size, because they do tend to vary in Europe. Okay, and I'm also recommending that you have a pair of sharp scissors and a yarn needle handy. To begin, we're going to start with a slip knot and do this kind of loose so that you can get it, and then pull it a little bit tight. Now we're ready to start. We're going to work 4 chains, 1, 2, 3, 4, and into that very first chain we're going to work 4 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so you have 4 double crochets. That's not including the turning chain at the beginning. So now we're going to turn. We're going to chain 3. We're going to work 1 double crochet in that first double crochet, 1 in the next double crochet, and actually in each of the next 2 as well. And in the turning chain, we're going to work 2 double crochets. So after working row 2, you should have a total of 6 double crochets plus the turning chain. Okay, for row number 3, we're going to chain 3. We're going to work again double crochets in each double crochet across. Let's pause and take a look at what we have, and go ahead and work 2 double crochets in that turning chain. Okay, so now we're going to turn, and let's see what we have. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stitches plus the turning chain. Now we are going to start our stitch motif that we're going to be working throughout. And let's go ahead and use a stitch marker. Okay, I'm going to just put the stitch marker on this side right here, and this is to tell us that this side will not have increases any longer. This side is going to be remaining straight, and the side over here is the side that's going to have the increases. If you just have that stitch marker there, that will help you to remember that. Okay, so now we are going to chain 3. We're going to work 1 double crochet in that first stitch and 1 in the next stitch as well. Okay, now we're going to work our very first braided cable. We're going to skip the next 2 stitches, and in the next 2 we're going to work a front post treble. And the way we do this is we double wrap our hook to prepare, and we work the hook around the stitch like this. So we're going to work a front post treble. We just complete the treble crochet. We're going to do that in the next stitch as well. Okay, now we're going to work in the 2 stitches that we skipped here, and we're going to work in front of these 2 stitches, and we're going to work it like this. And then we front post treble in the next stitch as well. So essentially front post treble in those 2 stitches that we just skipped. And now we front post treble in the next 2 stitches as well, even though they're not really crossing in front of anything, but they will eventually be incorporated into the braid as this progresses. Okay, and then now we get to the turning chain, and we're going to work 2 double crochets into that turning chain, just like so. Now for row 5 we're going to turn, and this is now the back side facing. We're going to chain 3. We're going to work a double crochet in each of those first double crochets. Okay, and now we're going to work the braided cable from the back side. So what we're going to do is basically the same, but working back post trebles. Skip 2 stitches, and the 2 that were crossed on top, we're going to start with those. We're going to work back post treble crochets in each of those. Now working in front of those as seen from the front side. And the front side is now facing away from us, so I'm turning this up so that you can see. We're going to front post treble in this stitch and then in this stitch. Actually, it's a back post treble, I'm sorry. Back post. It's a little bit tricky at first, so I'm going to try to go as slowly as I can. All right, this is what it looks like if you're looking at the back side, and if you flip it up a little bit, and here's the next stitch. It's those 2 that we skipped. And then we simply back post treble in the next 2, which are right here. They were the ones that were crossed over. So we make sure we bring our hook around here and grab those like this. All right, now we double crochet in those next 2 stitches. And remember, this is the side that does not increase, so we are just going to work those 2 stitches only, no chain, or not going to work in the turning chain. So now we're going to turn, and we're going to switch to using chain 2s on this side. So we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to work double crochets into those first 2 stitches. Now we work the braided cable, skip 2 just like we did before, front post treble in those next 2 stitches, working in front of those 2 stitches, we front post treble into those 2 stitches that were skipped. And then we also front post treble into the next 2 stitches, which are kind of hiding behind these 2 stitches, so make sure that you don't forget those. Make sure that you work 6 stitches for these braided cables. Okay, so now we work double crochets in the remaining 2 stitches, and since this is not the side that doesn't grow, this is the side we want to put our increases, so we're going to work 2 double crochets into that turning chain. Okay, just like that. All right, let's go ahead and turn. So now for row 7, we're going to chain 3. This is on the side that has the increases. So just briefly, we're going to chain 3 on the side with the increases, chain 2 on the side that remains constant. And that will be for now and throughout. Okay, so now we're going to just work 1 double crochet in each of these stitches that are just the double crochets. Okay, after that, we're going to work that braided cable again from the back side, skip 2 stitches, and again I'm flipping it up so that you can see the front side. Back post treble crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, working in front of that as seen from the front side, so looking at it this way. There are those 2 stitches. Start with the one that's furthest away, and then another back post treble right here. And if you're not sure you got it in the right stitch, you can always flip it around and check to make sure that you did. And the next one will be the ones that are kind of hiding under those other stitches. So the last 2 here, back post treble crochets. Okay, and then we come to the end of the side that does not increase. We just work double crochet and double crochet. So that's what you should have at the end of 7 rows. Let's go ahead and see what the front side looks like. It's starting to look nice. It'll take a couple more rows before you really see this beautiful braided cable. All right, so now let's go ahead and chain 2, because it's the side with that stitch marker. Double crochet in each of those first 2 stitches. And again, we do the braided cable. Skip 2, front post treble in the next 2 stitches. Working in front of these last 2 stitches, we go back to work front post trebles in the 2 stitches that we skipped. All right, and And now we do the next 2 stitches, which are playing hide and seek. They are hidden behind these 2 stitches. And if you're not sure, you can always look for the V's of these stitches that are on top. So that's 1 and 2. So another way to remember when to increase or when not to increase. You always increase when you have the front side facing. You increase at the end of the row, and that's the only time we're going to increase for this design. Okay, so now we're going to work those double crochets. Once we get 2 more additional stitches over here, we'll be able to start the Celtic weave, but we're going to give it a little bit of time to grow before we begin that. Okay, so we have 4 stitches. Now we're going to add 2 extras. 1 and 2. Well, do that again. There we go. So this is what you should have after completing 8 rows. Okay, now for row number 9, chain 3 and 1 double crochet in each of the next 6 stitches. And 6. After that, we're going to work the braided cable by skipping those next 2 stitches, back post treble in the next 2 stitches, and then working in front of those as seen from the front side, which is way back here. I hope this is clear for you. And then the next one is right here. Well, let's try that one again. Just to let you know, I am working around the camera and a camera tripod, and so sometimes it makes it a little trickier to catch these loops. Okay, so, and then the last 2 are right here. Let me show you where they were. Okay, so right here. And definitely enlist the use of the nerve endings in your thumb and fingers to find these stitches. That helps me tremendously. Just 1 and 2. And remember, this is the side that we keep constant, so we just work those 2 double crochets. We do not work in the turning chain on this side any longer. Okay, so let's go ahead and chain 2 and turn, and this is what you should have after completing 9 rows. For row 10, we're going to continue to build, and we're going to actually start a Celtic weave on this row. Okay, so we started off with a chain 2, 1 double crochet in each stitch. Now we work the braided cable, skip 2 stitches, front post treble in the next 2 stitches, working in front of those 2 stitches, front post treble in those next 2 stitches, and then we front post treble in the next 2, which are hiding behind the first 2 stitches that we worked, or that were worked on the last row. Okay. Okay, so now separating this cable is going to be 2 double crochets. So we're going to work 2 double crochets, and we're going to begin the Celtic weave, which is one of my favorite stitches. Okay, so once you have 4 stitches, you can start this 1, 2, 3, 4 And we do. So this is what we do. It's going to be very similar to what you've already done with the braided cable. So we're going to skip 2 stitches, front post treble in the next 2 stitches, working in front of those last 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in the 2 stitches that we skipped, exactly like we would, for now anyway, as the braided cable. So but we're only going to do that over 4 stitches, so we only do that much of it. Then we have our turning chain, and we're going to work 2 double crochets in there. Okay, it's going to get a little bit different as we go after this row. So this is what you should have after completing 10 rows. All right, for row 11, we're going to turn. We're going to chain 3 because this is the side that has the increases. So after that chain 3, we're going to skip 2 stitches, and then we're going to back post treble. Let's try that again. Going to back post treble over those next 2 stitches. Okay. And then we're going to come around and we're going to back post treble over the 2 that we skipped. We're going to start with the stitch that's right on the end. We're going to just bring that right on into the party here of the Celtic weave. And the next one right here. Okay, and then we're going to back post treble over those 2 that we skipped. Hold on a second. Let me do this one again. And then back post treble over those next 2 stitches. It's going to look a little strange as this grows, but I think it'll be fine. Okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So it looks kind of like a braid, but not really. But just hang in there. This will be fine as stitches are added to it. And then we double crochet in the next 2 stitches. And then we work that braid again. Skip 2 stitches. Work that braided cable over this net, or the back post treble crochet over those next 2, and then working in front of those as seen from the front side. So you have to flip it up and start the first back post treble here, and here. And then, again, those 2 that are remaining, go ahead and work back post trebles over those as well. And then double crochets in the next 2 stitches. All right, and this is what you have after 11 rows, and you see the beginning of the Celtic weave right here. Okay, for row 12, chain 2, double crochet, and then once again we're going to work the braided cable. I mean, this is going to be constant all the way through. Each of these rows basically is going to start the same, but they are going to evolve differently as we continue to add stitches. So we skip 2 for that braided cable, front post treble, working in front of those 2 stitches. We front post treble in the next, or the 2 that we skipped, and then in the next 2, which are hiding, they're being braided into this. And then again, double crochet in each of those next 2 stitches. All right. Now for the Celtic Weave, skip 2 stitches, front post, treble, and each of those next 2 stitches. Sorry for that scratchy sound with that stitch marker. Working in front of those 2, front post, treble, and the next 2 stitches, or the 2 that you just skipped rather. So now after working these 2, we have only 2 stitches left, but we also need to put stitches in that turning chain. So let's go ahead and skip these 2. And I'm going to have you work 2 treble crochets into that turning chain. And working in front of those, go ahead and front post treble into those 2 stitches that we skipped. This is just a way to help grow this Celtic weave in an efficient manner. And then we're going to work a double crochet, just 1, in that turning chain again. Okay, so this is what you should have. So you can see that the Celtic weave does look different than the braided cable. So now on to row 13. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. We're going to work a double crochet in that first stitch. Now after that double crochet, we're going to work 2 back post treble crochets. This will be worked into the Celtic weave in the next row. Now we're going to skip 2 stitches, and we're going to back post treble in the next 2. Working in front of those as seen from the front side, we're going to work back post trebles in those stitches that we skipped, just like we do. Let's try that again, just like we do for the braided cable, but we're just going to do it more consistently, so it's going to give it a different look. That's 1, and the next one is right next to it. That's 2, and then we have 2 more. These last 2, make sure we don't forget those. Back post trebles there as well. And double crochet in each of these next 2 stitches. And then now we're working the back side of the braided cable. Again, skip 2, back post treble crochet in the next 2 stitches. I know this is starting to sound like a broken record because it's very redundant, but this is what I do as a teacher. Okay, working in front of these as seen from the front side, so it's really in the far back. This is where language kind of loses its ability to totally explain what I'm doing here, but just know that these are crossing in front as seen from the front, even though it's, when you're looking at it with the back side facing, they're in the way back. All right, if that makes any sense. And then you have 2 more to go. 2 more back post trebles. And then double crochets in those last 2 stitches. And remember, this is the side that does not increase. So go ahead and work those 2. This is what you should have after 13 rows. All right, chain 2, and we're going to do it again. So I'm going to go ahead and shorten this for you. I'm going to go ahead and work the 2 double crochets, and since you should know how to do this braided cable, I'm going to go ahead and do this and the 2 double crochets here, and then I'll rejoin you at the Celtic weave. Now continuing with the Celtic weave after the braid and those 2 double crochets, skip 2 stitches, front post treble in the next 2 stitches, working in front of those 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble on the 2 skipped stitches. And basically that's what we repeat across. Skip 2, front post treble in the next 2 stitches, working in front of those 2 stitches, we front post treble in the 2 stitches that we skipped. Okay, now as we're building this across, we have 1 stitch left, so we don't really have enough yet to incorporate into the Celtic weave again just yet. So double crochet there, and then 2 double crochets in that next stitch, or actually it's the turning chain, 2 in the turning chain. So this is what you should have after 14 rows. For row 15, we're going to chain 3, work a double crochet in that first stitch, then we're going to begin or continue our Celtic weave. Skip the next 2 stitches, back post treble in the next 2, working in front of that as seen from the front side. We're going to come all the way over here, and we're going to use those double crochets. We're going to bring them in to the party here of the Celtic weave. That's the second one. Again, I'm working just back post trebles. You're going to be working a lot of front and back post trebles in this design. Skip the next 2 stitches, and the next 2 that you're going to bring in, you should be able to feel where they crossed on tops on the other side. So 2 more back post treble crochets, working in front of those as seen from the front side. We're going to come around and work these 2 stitches in. I can feel these with my nerve endings in my fingers, and that does help me quite a bit. I'm repeating myself again, but again, this is very helpful in this particular design. And then the last 2 are just, again, back post trebles, all right, and then we just continue to finish this out with the 2 double crochets worked into the top loops of those double crochets. And I'll just talk you through the rest. We're going to back post treble over these 2, then we're going to back post treble over the next 2, again working in front as seen from the front side, and then these 2 will be back post trebles, double crochet, double crochet. Do not work in the turning chain. For row 16, I'll go ahead and talk you through some of this. Chain 2, 2 double crochets. I'm going to go ahead and work the braided cable by skipping 2, front post treble in these 2, and then front post treble in these 2, and then front post treble in the 2 hiding, and then go ahead and double crochet in those next 2 stitches, and I'll work the Celtic weave with you again. Continuing on with row 16, and we've completed the braid and those 2 double crochets, so let's go ahead and do the Celtic weave. Skip 2 stitches, front post treble in the next 2 stitches, and then working in front of these last 2 stitches, front post treble in the 2 skipped stitches, and then we're going to do that again. Skip the next 2 stitches, and these are the 2 that are hiding, and then work these 2 that have crossed on the surface, front post treble in those 2 stitches, working in front of those 2, we're going to front post treble in those 2 stitches that were skipped, now we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to skip the next 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in the next stitch. So after working that lonely double crochet, we're going to work another treble into that turning chain, and then working in front of those 2 stitches, we're going to work front post trebles in those 2 stitches that we skipped. Okay, just like that, and then an additional double crochet in the turning chain. Now at this point we have our 3 what I like to call crosses of our Celtic weave completed. So I'm going to take you through the next several rows, obviously, but we're going to be adding these 2 spaced, kind of a lacy spacing here intentionally. We're going to have 2 double crochets on this side before we add another braid to this design. Okay, so let's go ahead, chain 3, and again we're just going to continue. We're going to work a double crochet in that first stitch. So after that double crochet, we're going to work back post trebles in the first 2 stitches, and this is going to kind of corral this Celtic weave into its own section here. Skip the next 2 stitches, back post treble in the next 2 stitches, working in front of that as seen from the front side. We're going to back post treble in those 2 skip stitches, and we're going to do that again. Skip 2, back post treble in the next 2 stitches, working in front of those last 2, we back post treble in the skipped stitches, those 2 stitches, and then 2 more back post trebles in the very next 2 stitches. And I'm going to look at this with you as soon as I finish the next 2. I'm going to do the next 2 double crochets, and then I'm going to have you again complete this braided cable from the back side. Skip 2 back post trebles, working in front of those, back post treble, and then back post treble, back here and then 2 double crochets do not work the turning chain. Well, let's just take a look. This Celtic weave is going to just be contained just the way it is. It's going to just continue to repeat over those 12 stitches. This is what you should have after completing 17 rows. Now to start row 18. And before we go into that, let me go ahead and explain what's going to happen. These 12 stitches here are going to form a Celtic weave panel. So we're not going to keep adding to the Celtic weave when we go forward on this row. What we're going to do is form another 2 stitches as a spacer, and then as this continues to grow, we're going to add another braided cable. We're going to start with a chain 2 and a double crochet worked in each of those first 2 double crochets. Now we work the braided cable. I'll go ahead and work that, and then the 2 double crochets, and then I'll meet you at the Celtic weave. Now we've come to the Celtic weave. I'll just work this with you. Skip 2, front post treble in each of those next 2 stitches, working in front of those 2 stitches. We work front post treble in the 2 skip stitches. And if I haven't already said, as much. This constitutes what we call like a Celtic Weave cross or a crossing, okay? And we're going to have 3 of those across. So we skip the next 2 stitches that are hiding back here, front post treble, and those next 2 stitches, and then working in front of those 2 stitches, we find those 2 stitches, they are hiding back here, the 2 that we skipped. Don't forget those, because if you do, you'll be running short of stitches the next row or so, and it'll be very confusing, I promise. Okay, I have done it myself, so I understand. Skip the next 2. Again, these are hiding, and front post treble in the next 2 stitches. And working in front of those, we find those 2 that are hiding back here, and we work in those. So I'm just doing the same front post double crochet, or I'm sorry, front post treble crochet over and over again. I know I've had people complain, oh, when my thumb covers the stitch, they can't see it. I am just completing the treble crochets. It just makes it easier to hold on to the fabric. All right, and then we work a double crochet in that next stitch, and then 2 double crochets in the turning chain. So again, we're just adding stitches. We're just going to continue to grow stitches on this side until we have enough really for the next braided cable, and that'll happen in just a couple rows. Okay, so now let's turn, chain 3, because this is on the side that grows, work 1 double crochet in each of those 3 stitches, and this is where we work the more traditional back side of the Celtic Weave, and that is we start with the next 2 stitches. We're not crossing anything, but we are going to work 2 back post treble crochets. This is the part where the Celtic Weave curves back inward, and I'll show you that after we finish this. Skip these next 2 stitches, back post treble in the next 2, and these are the 2 that are going to be riding on top. After that, working in front of these stitches as seen from the front side, so they're really all the way in the back, and we're going to come around. And again, this is where you can use those nerve endings in your thumb and finger and help to direct which stitch you should be working that back post treble around. And here's the next one. And then we do that again, skip the next 2 stitches which are here, and then the next 2 which are the ones resting on top, back post treble in the next 2, and then again working in front of those as seen from the front side, we come in and work those 2 that we just skipped, working back post treble crochets, and then we have 2 stitches remaining right here in the Celtic Weave, and then we just work back post trebles. We don't skip anything, we just do the next 2 with those back post treble crochets. And let's go ahead and work the 2 double crochets. After that, we have that braided cable. We skip 2, again, back post treble. You should know this one by heart by now. We've done it for more than 15 rows at this point. Okay, working in front of those as seen from the front side. So we come around all the way to the back and work 2 more back post trebles. And then we work the very next 2 in that braided cable, which again 2 more back post treble crochets. All right, and to end the row, 2 double crochets. Again, do not work in the turning chain or that will be growing the wrong side of the project. So let's turn. And so now you can see, so we've been growing this Celtic weave all along, but now that it's contained, it's going to be just framed right here and just going to grow as a large 12 stitch column. We're going to chain 2. We're going to work 2 double crochets. We're going to work that braided cable the way we've been working it. We're going to work 2 double crochets, and we're going to work the Celtic weave over these 12 stitches just the way I've been showing you, and then double crochets in each of these 2. I'll actually finish this out once I finish the Celtic weave, so I'll go ahead and work until I get to the end. We've just completed those 12 Celtic weave stitches, or 3 Celtic crosses or crossings with these stitches, and then we're going to work a double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. And then we're going to work 2 more stitches into that turning chain. Again, these are our increases. Okay, so how many stitches? We have those 2 stitches here that are going to be spacer, kind of lace-like spacings here. And then now we have a total of 3 towards our next 6 stitch braided cable. So obviously we don't have enough to start that on this row. So now we're going to turn, chain 3. Again, backside is facing us, so we chain 3. 1 stitch in each of those 5 now double crochets, and then after that, just as a review, we're going to begin those 12 stitches of the Celtic weave. And again, when the back side is facing, you always start with 2 backside treble crochets. Now this is once you have enough stitches, once you establish those 12 stitches into Celtic weave. I know this is going to be a bit challenging for some if you've never worked this, but the rows leading up to this, we're growing the side here. We're just gradually increasing, so that's why this was different in those rows below. But once we establish those 12 stitches, we just work this Celtic weave as normal. Okay, so we start that with 2 back post trebles, skip the next 2, and again the 2 that are resting on top, we back post treble in each of those stitches, working in front of those as seen from the front side. So we come all the way to the back, because these stitches that we're making now are going to be crossing on top. All right, and then again, skip 2 more, back post treble in the next 2 stitches. I'm probably not going to repeat this very much more as we go across in some of the rows to come, just because it's very redundant. And if you need a refresher, you can always back up in the video. Okay, so now this is where it gets tricky. Okay, so we're working with the back side. We started off with these 2, and you can see that we've made 2 Celtic crosses here, but I said there were 3 Celtic crosses, right? Well, with the back side facing, there still are, but there are 2 here, and then half of the other, or the third, is here, and the last 2 stitches here. So the next 2 stitches, we don't skip anything, we just back post treble in those next 2 stitches. Okay, just like that. And let me go ahead and turn around so that you can see this. You should be able to see it growing better this way. All right, I think this is going to be beautiful on a scarf, especially when we repeat this a time or two. All right, so let's go back, and we're just going to finish out the row with the 2 double crochets, and then we're going to work that 6-stitch braided cable, double crochet, and double crochet do not work in that turning chain. This is what you should have after completing 21 rows. Now for row 22. I'm going to just give you some verbal instructions. We're going to chain 2, double crochet, work with the front side facing, of course, work the braided cable over those 6 stitches, 2 double crochets, work 3 Celtic crossings for the Celtic weave, and then I will show you how the row ends. We have some double crochets to work. I want to give you the exact count here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 2 more in that turning chain. So that's 6 and 7. Let's pause and just verify for a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now we have 7 stitches here. I said we needed 8, so we're going to have to wait until the probably 2 more rows, 2 or 3 more rows before we begin this next braided cable, but it'll start shortly. Okay, and I'll just go ahead and start that with a chain 3 because we're on the side that's growing, and I'm going to work 1 double crochet in each of the first 7 stitches. After working those first 7 stitches, then we're going to work the Celtic weave by starting with 2 back post trebles, and then we skip 2 back post treble in these 2, then working in front, back post treble in these 2, etc. across. Again, you have 2 crossings on the back side, then you have the 2 stitches at the beginning and the 2 stitches at the end that you work also back post treble crochets, double crochet, work with the back side facing the braided cable, and then 2 double crochets do not work in that turning chain. I'm going to chain 2, double crochet, work the 6-stitch braided cable, double crochet, work those 12 stitches of the Celtic weave, and then I'm going to work this ending with you. We're just going to work double crochets. Let's go ahead and just do this. Double crochets in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stitches, and then you're going to add 2 additional double crochets in the turning chain, so that's going to bring a total of 9. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stitches. So what's going to happen is we're going to leave these 2 as spacers just like we did over here, but we're going to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches for the braided cable, and we're going to be brave and we're going to start this on the back side. Okay, and this stitch will be crocheted in. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. We're going to turn, chain 3, double crochet in that first double crochet, and then after that we're just going to do the same motion we've been with the back side facing for the braided cable. Skip 2 stitches, back post treble in each of the next 2 stitches, working in front of that as seen from the front side. We're going to come right over here and get that second stitch, which was the first one that we skipped, and then let's look at it again. Here's the next one right here, so we get that one as well. and then we back post treble in the next 2 stitches without skipping anything. Okay, and then 2 double crochets. These again, like I said, are going to be those spacing stitches, which gives it a nice lacy look, and then we work the Celtic weave. Well, let's go ahead and turn. And so this is what you should have. Of course, it does not look like a braid yet, but it will as this grows. So we're just going to continue to work across on row 27 with the back side of the Celtic weave, 2 double crochets and braided cable with the back side facing just like we've been doing over these 6 stitches, and then double crochet, do not work in that turning chain. And you see the 6 stitches over here. I know it's hard to see, but that will become a braid. Chain 2, double crochet, work those 6 stitches of the braided cable, 2 double crochets, 3 Celtic crosses over those 12 stitches, double crochet. We're going to work a braided cable here. And so what I'll do is I will work up through these 2 stitches, and then I'll work the braided cable and the ending with you. We're coming to that braided cable, which hasn't exactly been formed yet, so we skip 2 stitches, front post treble in each of the next 2 stitches, working in front of those 2 stitches, front post treble, and the 2 skipped stitches, and then we front post treble in the next 2, which are hiding behind those other 2 stitches. And we have 1 double crochet to work in here, and then we work 2 double crochets into that turning chain. We should have 2 cables. We have 2 stitches here, 2 stitches here, 2 stitches here, those spacers, so to speak, and then we have 3 double crochets at the end. We're going to turn, and again chain 3 because we're on the side that is growing, and 3. Well, let's go ahead and try that stitch again. 3 double crochets to begin. And as you can see, this is becoming redundant as we add these stitches. So then we're going to work 6 stitches. That's going to be the back side of that braided cable. 2 double crochets, we work the Celtic weave from the back side, and remember we start with the 2 back posts, that you don't cross anything, you just start with those, and then you have those 2 Celtic crosses from the back side, and then you end with those 2 back post treble crochets, and then 2 double crochets, those 6 stitches, back side of the braided cable, and 2 double crochets, do not work the turning chain. We're just going to work in pattern stitch with the double crochets, the front side facing with the crossing of both of these braided cables, as well as the Celtic weave. Again, you're going to have 3 Celtic crossings, so to speak, as you work across these 12 stitches. And then at the end of the row, we're going to have 3 double crochets plus 2 more in that turning chain that will bring our total to 5. So go ahead and work row 28, and for row 29, you're going to turn. There will be 2 extra stitches here, of course, so you will chain 3, work in each of the 5 double crochets, and again, back side of the braided cable, 2 double crochets, the back side of the Celtic weave, 2 double crochets, and another braided cable, 2 double crochets do not work in the turning chain. Go ahead and continue working. I'm just going to say it in pattern stitch. You know what these are at this point. And I will show you how we will start incorporating the Celtic weave at the end of this row. We've worked the 2 double crochets, braided cable, 2 double crochets, 12 stitches of the Celtic weave, 2 double crochets, and another braided cable. We're going to work double crochets in each of these stitches. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're going to work 2 more in the turning chain. This will be 6 and 7. Okay, so now we're going to turn. We're going to chain 3, and we're just going to double crochet 1 stitch in each of these 7 stitches, and then continue to work in pattern stitch with the back side facing with the cable, 2 double crochets, Celtic weave, 2 double crochets, braided cable, and 2 stitches, 2 double crochets at the end do not work into the turning chain. Now go ahead and work along row 32 using the pattern stitch, and I will show you how to work at the end where we will begin working another Celtic weave cross. You should have a total of 7 double crochets plus the turning chain. So what we're going to do is we're going to work double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, and these 2 stitches will be spacers like these and like these are. Okay, and then now we're going to make 1 Celtic cross over the next 4 stitches. So skip 2, front post, treble crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, working in front of those 2 stitches, front post treble in the 2 skipped stitches. Okay, after that we're just going to work a double crochet in that last stitch, and then 2 more into the turning chain. All right, so we're just starting the Celtic weave. All right, let's go ahead and turn. Chain 3, since we're on the growing side, double crochet in that first stitch. Now we're going to incorporate these 2 into the Celtic weave this way. Skip 2, these 2 stitches. We're going to use these 2. These are the 2 that are resting on top. Back post treble and back post treble. Working in front of these as seen from the front side, come back and get that first stitch that was skipped, and do that again. Okay, and then the next 2 are just back post trebles, because this is going to be one of the edges of the cable. It's going to be, you know, one of the sides that borders this. Well, let's go ahead and do that one again. So 2 back post treble crochets, and then after that it becomes pattern stitch again, double crochet in each of those 2 new spacer stitches, and then we work the back side of the cable over those 6 stitches, braided cable, 2 double crochets, the Celtic weave over those 12 stitches, 2 double crochets, braided cable, and 2 double crochets do not work the turning chain. Pay particular attention to the end. What we did here, you can see this Celtic cable beginning. It's starting, it looks almost like a braided cable, so do be careful that you know this is going to be a Celtic weave. So anyway, just to keep that in mind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chain 2 and just work across in pattern stitch. Remember, there's a braided cable here, and then I'm going to stop right here and I will work this part towards the end with you. I just wanted to work this with you just so that it's as clear as I can make it. Okay, so double crochet in those next 2 stitches, and let me show you where I was. I've just finished those 6 stitches of the braided cable. So 2 double crochets, and then now we're going to work the Celtic weave. Skip the next 2. Front post treble in the next 2 stitches. Working in front of those 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in each of the next 2 stitches. So we only have 2 stitches so far. Okay, and so now we're going to actually front post treble into the next stitch and into that turning chain. After working that front post treble in that turning chain, then we work in front of these 2 and we find those 2 stitches that are hidden there that we had skipped, and work front post trebles in each of those stitches. So after working those 2 treble crochets, we're going to do something a little unusual. We're going to work 3 double crochets in the turning chain. Okay, so just make a note of that. Then we're going to turn, and this is all to accommodate the growing of the Celtic weave. Chain 3, double crochet in that very first stitch. Skip the next 2 stitches. We're going to back post treble crochet in those 2 stitches. And working in front of those, as seen from the front side, we're going to work these 2 stitches into that Celtic weave. So 1, and the second one is right there, 2. All right, after that, we're going to skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2. Back post treble in the next 2 stitches. Sorry for all the noise, y'all. It's my stitch marker keeps scratching against the surface, so that should stop in just a bit. Okay, so we worked back post trebles there, and we're going to work in front of these as seen from the front side, and we come to work those 2 skipped stitches. I'm doing this very gingerly because I want to make sure that this works out. And then 2 more back post trebles. So we're just 2 stitches short from actually having this Celtic weave completed. All right, after that, double crochet in those next 2 stitches, and then we continue on in pattern stitch with the braided cable, 2 double crochets, 12 stitches of the Celtic weave, two double crochets, braided cable, and 2 double crochets do not work in the turning chain of that row. Let's pay particular attention to the end. Here you have 2 double crochets, and then you have the Celtic weave, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 stitches. We will complete that the rest of that Celtic weave on this row, chain 2 at the beginning of this row, 2 double crochets, and braided cable, you know what to do. Work in pattern stitch, and I'll work the remaining part of this row with you. I'll go ahead and work this with you. Again, I just finished the braided cable, so we're going to work 2 double crochets, and then now we're going to work the Celtic weave. Skip the next 2, and we should be able to make 3 Celtic crosses, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that at the end. And then work in front, work those 2 front post trebles, skip the next 2 stitches, which are hidden back here, and we're going to front post treble in those 2 stitches. Again, these are the stitches that are always on top. Working in front of those, we find those 2 hidden stitches and front post treble in those. Now we're going to make the stitches that we need. We're going to skip those 2 hidden stitches. We're going to front post treble in that next stitch, and then we're going to front post treble again in the turning chain, and working in front of those 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in those 2 skipped stitches, and then we're going to work 1 double crochet in that turning chain, just like that. So let's take a look. At the end, we have 1, 2, 3 of those Celtic crosses, and we did double dip. We used that turning chain for one of those front post trebles, and then we added a double crochet. So let's go ahead and turn. Chain 3, 1 double crochet in that first stitch. Now this is where we have all the stitches we need for that Celtic weave. So now we're just going to work back post treble in those first 2 stitches. Okay. Skip the next 2 stitches, back post treble over the next 2 stitches. Working in front of those 2 stitches as seen from the front side. You come around the back and get those 2. I know you've seen this already a bunch of times, but some people out there might need just another refresher just to be sure they're doing it right. All right, and then after that we do this again. Skip the next 2, back post treble in each of the next 2 stitches, and working in front as seen from the back side. These are the 2 we're going for. My fingers are there to confirm that I've got the right stitches, and if you're not sure, you can always flip to look to the other side, to the front side, to make sure this is going well. And then after that, back post treble in the next 2 stitches, 1 and 2, and let's go ahead and do 2 double crochets, which again is part of that pattern stitch now. And let's go ahead and take a look at the back. So now you can see these 2 stitches and these 2 stitches are bordering this next section of the Celtic weave, so it will look very much like this as we go along. So from this point on, you're just going to work in pattern stitch over this braided cable, 2 double crochets, the Celtic weave, 2 double crochets, braided cable, and then 2 double crochets. Do not work that turning chain. Okay, let's just look at this again. We have a braided cable, we have the Celtic weave, another braided cable, a Celtic weave. Now what we're going to do, surprise, surprise, after we finish with the Celtic weave, we're going to actually start working on another braided cable over here as these rows progress. All right. I want you to work across in pattern stitch, starting with a chain 2, double crochet, braided cable, 2 double crochets, the 12 stitches, which are 3 crosses of the Celtic weave, 2 double crochets, 6 stitches of the braided cable, 2 double crochets, and then we're going to have 3 crosses of the Celtic weave. So after I finish that, I'll show you the ending. I've worked those 3 crosses of the Celtic crosses, and now I'm going to work a double crochet into that last stitch and 2 double crochets into the turning chain. Okay, just want to be very clear as to how this row ends. Okay, so again, we are waiting for more stitches until we can add our last braided cable. So let's go ahead and turn. Chain 3. We're going to double crochet in each of those double crochets, and then we work in pattern stitch. And I'll just start this. We work by starting with 2 back post trebles because it's the back side of that Celtic weave over those 12 stitches, and then we skip 2 back post treble next to, and then back post treble in these 2, etc. over the cable, 2 double crochets, back side of the braided cable, and etc. all the way across. 2 double crochets do not work in the turning chain, so go ahead and finish. This is what you should have after completing 39 rows. For row 40, we're going to chain 2 and work across in pattern stitch, and then I'll show you how this row ends. At the end of this row, we're just going to work double crochets in those remaining double crochets. So there are 1, 2, 3 of those, and we have 2 that we're going to work in the turning chain. Again, this is the side that is increasing or growing. You can see how this Celtic weave is formed. All right. We're just going to turn. I'll just start you off on this. Chain 3. I'm going to work 1 double crochet in each of the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches. After that, we return to the pattern stitch with those 12 stitches of the Celtic weave, etc. all the way across, and do not work in the turning chain, just end by working those 2 double crochets. Just look at the end here. So you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 double crochets. Now I'm going to give you a 2-row assignment. We're just going to work across again in pattern stitch. At the end of the row, you will have a total of 5 double crochets, and then you're going to add 2 more, so that will give you 7. When you turn, you're going to chain 3, and then you're going to work 1 double crochet in each of the 7. You only see 5 here. You're going to have 7 double crochets, and then you're going to work across in pattern stitch again with the Celtic weave, etc. all the way across. 2 double crochets at the end. Do not work in the turning chain. So go ahead and work rows 42 and 43. And let's pay particular attention to the ending. And you can see how this Celtic weave is forming a beautiful column here. I'm going to have you just work again across in pattern stitch, and I will meet you right here at the end of the Celtic weave and show you how I want to begin our braided cable on this row. So go ahead and work that, and I'll meet you after the Celtic weave. All right, so now we're going to work 2 spacer stitches, those 2 double crochets that will remain double crochets into. Now we're going to work our braided cable. Now we only have 5 stitches here, so we're going to incorporate the use of that turning chain. Again, skip 2 stitches, front post treble in each of the next 2 stitches, working in front of those 2 stitches. We're going to front post treble in the 2 skipped stitches. And then now we're going to front post treble in the last stitch and in the turning chain. After that, a double crochet again in that. So we're going to have basically a treble and a double crochet in that turning chain, and we're going to have that treble be part of that braided cable. So let's go ahead and turn. Again, chaining 3, because this is the side that is increasing. Double crochet in that first stitch, and let's try to move this so that it doesn't make a lot of noise. Now we're going to work the back side of the braid. Skip 2 stitches, and the 2 that are riding on top or sitting on top, back post trebles. Working in front of those 2 stitches, we're going to come and we're going to get that treble that was in that turning chain with the back post treble crochet, and then the next stitch, which is right here, back post treble, and then back post treble in the next 2 stitches. So now we have our last cable completed. Okay, and then we're just going to continue to work across in pattern stitch. I'll work those 2 double crochets, then we'll work the Celtic weave, etc. And you know what to do all the way across. So just let's take a quick inventory. We have a braided cable, we have a Celtic weave section, braided cable, Celtic weave, and the beginnings of another braided cable, and we have a double crochet at the end. Now at this row we're going to be starting to use our double crochet V stitches, which we're going to use throughout the pattern from this point onward. That's going to be kind of our background stitch, or the stitch that's not part of the cabling for the scarf. Okay, so what I want you to do is go ahead and work in pattern stitch across for this row, and I will show you after I work the braided cable. I will show you the end of this row. We are going to skip that double crochet, and in the chain 3 space we're going to work a double crochet, a chain 1, and a double crochet. This is going to be our V stitch that we use for this design. Okay, so we're going to begin increasing this side, or continue increasing, but using only V stitches as we go, and I'll show you how these will be added. So let's go ahead and turn. We're going to chain 3. We're going to work a double crochet in that first double crochet of the V stitch, and again that's only as an increase, and then we're going to work a V stitch into that chain 1 space of the V stitch, just like that. And then we just continue on into our pattern stitch. Skip 2 stitches, back post treble into the next 2 stitches as we work this braided cable, and again just continue on in pattern stitch with that braided cable. We're going to go ahead and complete that, and I'll just give you a view of how this is going to look. And then we have 2 more stitches to work to complete this braided cable. All right, let's pull the yarn up, and so it's going to look like this. All right, and we'll work a couple more rows adding. So what I want you to do, go ahead and work row 47 and then turn and go on to work row 48. When I say pattern stitch, it's just all the stitches that we've been doing. Go ahead and work all the way across, and I'll show you how this is going to work at the end. So after working across in pattern stitch, we're going to work in that chain 1 space of the V-stitch from the last row, work another V-stitch, which is a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then there in the chain 3 space, we're going to work another V-stitch. Okay, just like that. And that's the way most of, well, really all of the even numbered rows from this point is going to end. All right, so now we're going to turn. And this is where the increases are going to happen with these V stitches. Okay, with the back side facing, we chain 3, and then we just work V stitches again. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then go to the next V stitch, which is here. Now, where you might get tripped up is by working a V stitch here, which is not actually into a V stitch. So make sure that you don't add a whole lot more unnecessarily. So this will have a V stitch here, of course, with the double crochet, I'm sorry, with the chain, turning chain, and then we're going to work another one here. Okay, all right, so after we do those 2 V stitches, we return to our pattern stitch with the braided cable, double crochets, the Celtic weave, etc. And everything is pretty much, well, is exactly the same until the end. So go ahead and work row 49 for the remainder of the row, and then turn and then work row 50, and I will show you how this ends at the end of row 50. And so now we have some V stitches to work. So we're going to go ahead and work 1 there in that first chain 1 space. Now we're going to skip this double crochet and that double crochet. I'm just stating it that way so that you know there's no chain 1 space in between these 2 stitches, but there is one here. So we're going to work another V stitch here. Okay, and then we're going to work 1 in the turning chain, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. So this is how you're going to end the rows. Now when you add additional rows, of course you're going to have more V stitches, but basically work a V stitch in each V stitch and in the turning chain. So now when you have the back side facing on the rows that follow, you're going to chain 3 and then just simply work V stitches in those chain 1 spaces of the V stitches from the previous rows. Okay, and by doing this we're going to be adding V stitches evenly as this shawl grows as you work across. Okay, and it should be a nice even progression. So I've gone ahead and worked those 3 V stitches so that you can see this edge. Let's go ahead and look at it from the front side facing. That's a little better. So the edge should stay relatively consistent. Okay, so again, when the front side is facing, just work V stitches in the chain 1 of those V stitches and 1 in the chain 1, or I'm sorry, in the chain 3 turning chain. And then when you turn to work the row that follows, you work a chain 3, and then again just a V stitch in the established V stitches. Okay, so what will happen is every other row you're going to be adding a V stitch. So let's see, we had 2 V stitches here, and then we still had 2 on this row, and then we have 3. So every even numbered row you're going to be adding an additional V stitch. Okay, so what I'm going to have you do now is continue working in pattern stitch, and I'll put a little note across the bottom of the screen as to how many rows I worked this to. Okay, now of course with this particular type of design you can make this as large or as small as you wish before returning to, you know, fastening off to the border that we'll be changing to. Okay, and again, if you need the exact number of V stitches per row, you can check the written pattern. I'll have all of that information detailed for you. So go ahead and work this until you reach the desired length or until the number of rows that I showed you earlier. Okay, so I have worked this project until I have 124 rows. And let's go ahead and take a look at what we have from the very beginning. I'll do this slowly. Okay, and notice it's just growing on the one side until we get to this point where we have our established pattern with the 1 braid Celtic Weave section, 1 braid Celtic Weave section, and another braid. And then this is where the V stitches start to grow. Okay, and then it gets larger and larger. I can't even fit it into the viewfinder. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at what we have. I have worked 124 rows, and remember we started way down here with just a few stitches in a row, and we built our pattern stitch little by little until we would have a let's see, we would have a braided cable, Celtic Weave, braided cable, Celtic Weave section, and then a braided cable. And then after that we began adding these V stitches, which I'm going to focus on that now. These have grown and grown and grown. G-R-O-W-N, not the other grown. Anyway, like that's, hopefully that hasn't been your situation. Until we have now 39 V stitches on this last row. Again, this is row 124. Now I'll go ahead and state this. If you want to make this smaller, you don't have to work it to this many rows. If you want to make this gargantuan, you can just keep working it as much as you would like, or until you run out of yarn. But you're going to want to retain some of that yarn, because what we're going to be doing now is going to be kind of a little bit of a yarn eater in some people's words. But what we're going to do at this point, well, let me go ahead and give you the measurements that I have here. So the hypotenuse, which is the row edges, let me show you how this is going to be. When you wear this like this, so the largest, there we go, put that corner there. Now, I will put some better pictures in this video so that you can see this. But this edge right here, we're going to leave this just the way it is. We're not going to crochet over that. And that's the part that's going to be around the neck or around the shoulders. This is the largest section. This is approximately 55 inches right now. That might change by an inch or two once we do the edging. But again, that's an approximate. Now the shortest side of the shawl, which would be here, this is approximately 31 inches. And the side that did not add stitches, the third side, is approximately 51 inches long. So this is a nice size shawl, and it can, you know, be bunched up to worn as a beautiful scarf in the front as well. So what we're going to do at this point is we are going to transition to a ribbed finish. That is, if you want that. I mean, that's what I'm going to do with this. If you wanted to do a different finishing, you certainly are free to do that. But we're going to transition now to a ribbed stitch along the side that we are crocheting now. And then we will come back and we will add that same ribbing going this direction. And they will both meet up at the corner. And I'll show you how to do that. So now with the back side facing, we're going to chain 3, and this is just going to be for this row as we convert these stitches from the V stitches to the ribbing. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to work 3 stitches in each chain 1 space, but since this is the corner, which we want this to be a little pointier, so we're going to crochet a few more. So we're going to go ahead and put 5 stitches in that very first chain 1 space. We're going to skip the double crochet and the double crochet, and then the next chain 1 space, we're going to do clusters of just 3 double crochets. And that's pretty much what we're going to do for all of these V stitches, and I'll go ahead and work a few of these with you. I know that yarn is dark. Okay, so that should be fairly clear. 1, 2, 3 double crochets in each of those chain 1 spaces across, and again I worked 5 here so that this will kind of maintain a point for a little while. So after having worked 3 double crochets in each of those chain 1 spaces, we come to the back side of the regular work we've been working. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to work those back post double crochets as normal, but we're just going to work them straight across. We're not going to cross the braided cables or any of that. We're just going to work back post double crochets in the order that they appear. Okay, so I'll go ahead. I'm working the first braid. So I've just worked 6 back post double crochets, and then work double crochets in the other double crochets that worked as spacers, and then across the Celtic Weave section again we're just going to straight up work back post double crochets. Nothing is going to cross at this point. Okay, so we have we're going to have 4 back post double crochets for every Celtic 4 stitch cross. Okay, so make sure, I'm just going to go over a few of these, make sure that you get them in order and you don't miss any of these stitches. So go ahead and work that in that manner across, and I'll show you how to end. Just a double crochet in each of those last 2 double crochets. I'm not working in the turning chain. Let's go ahead and turn. Now we have the front side facing, and we should just have just straight stitches across to work in at this point. And this is where we begin the ribbing. We're going to chain 2. We're going to skip that first stitch, and then we're going to work a front post double crochet over that first stitch, and then a back post over the next, and that's what we're going to do all the way across. Front post followed by a back post. So go ahead and work that all the way across the row. At the end of this row, we're going to work 2 double crochets into that turning chain. So let's go ahead and take a look, and you can see where we worked the ribbing over those 3 stitch clusters. So now we're going to turn, and we're going to work 5 additional rows with the ribbing. Now let me show you how we're going to do this. We're going to chain 3, and this is when you have the back side facing you. After that, chain 3. We're going to skip the first stitch. We're going to work a back post double crochet to start, and then a front post. And as you go along, make sure that you work back post over the back post stitches, and then front post over the front post stitches, just like that. And let's go all the way across, and I'll show you how we're going to end this. At the end, again, this is with the back side facing, we are just going to work a back post in that last stitch, and then we're going to work a half double crochet in the turning chain, and then we're going to turn. When you have the front side facing, we're just going to chain 2, and then work front post, back post, front post, back post, etc. Okay, it's only until you get to the end with the front side facing that you work 2 additional stitches in that turning chain. That's the turning chain that has been growing all along. Okay, so go ahead and work 5 additional rows in this manner, and the one that we just worked would be the first of those 5. So at the end of the 5th repeat, let me just be clear about that. We have the row where we transitioned, then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows of the ribbing after that. When I mentioned 5 rows before, that was 5 additional rows. But anyway, let's go ahead, and we're going to work a half double in that turning chain. Now we're going to do something interesting. We're going to turn 90 degrees, and we're going to work along the edge. This would be the straight edge of the piece. I'll go ahead and show you the front side with that braid. It's just the back side of this. So we're going to chain 3, and we're going to work in that same half double crochet that we just made, and we're going to work along the edges, and we're going to work evenly. And the best way to do that, I believe, is to work 2 double crochets in each of these row ends. So after having worked 2 double crochets into each of these row ends, now we come to the part where we have a little more distance between the row ends. So this is how we're going to do this. As we work over that chain 2, we're going to work 2 double crochets. When we look towards the double crochet, which is on the end, which is the next one, we're going to work 3. Okay, so 3 double crochets on that row end. Okay, let me do that again for you. 2 double crochets, and these do work well over that chain, and then 3 over the double crochet row end. So let me go ahead and show you what that looks like. So we have 2 in each row end for that ribbed section, and then 2, and then 3, 2, and then 3, and we're just going to work that all the way until we get to the end. And I will show this to you, but we're going to work that all the way until we get to the very end. At the end of this row, we end with 3 double crochets worked in that very first row end. So let's go ahead and turn, get that loose strand out of the way. We're going to chain 2. Now with these rows, we're not going to be adding any additional stitches either at the end or at the beginning. So we're going to skip the first stitch, and we just work the ribbing with working a front post, double crochet, followed by a back post, double crochet, just the way we did the other section with the ribbing. So front post, back post, front post, back post, all the way across. And let me show you the end. This is going to be very long rows. Okay, at the very end, we will end with a post stitch. I'm not sure if it's going to be a back post or front post yet, but either way, we will work a half double crochet in the turning chain. Okay, and then after that, we will turn, and then we will resume with the ribbing just the way we did on the other side. And again, you're going to have, let's see, I think a total of 7 rows, including this row. So you'll work 6 rows of the ribbing. So go ahead and do that, and then you can fasten off at the end of the last row. Well, I hope you enjoyed making the Celtic Orchid shawl with me today. If you did, I would absolutely love to hear from you. Please feel free to comment below in the comments section. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel or hit that notification button, please be sure that you do that so that you will be sure to get more notifications when I release future projects. God bless. Bye-bye.